Running an e-commerce business day to day feels like navigating whitewater. You are constantly reacting to fires that demand immediate attention just to stay afloat. When you're getting a new operation off the ground, obsessing over this week's sales or return on ad spend is a necessary baseline. You have to keep the lights on. But friction starts when those short-term survival tactics become permanent habits. Optimizing entirely for today's revenue gets you through the week, but it builds a fragile foundation over time. Every time you prioritize a quick Friday revenue spike over building a sustainable system, you take on operational debt. You borrow future flexibility to pay for immediate cash. Eventually, that debt comes due. Surviving the week requires a different playbook than building a business with durable, long-term enterprise value. We can map the specific trade-offs of these two mindsets by looking at how operational timeframes dictate a company's worth. This chart maps vulnerability to market shifts against total enterprise value. Top left, the quarterly operator has high cash flow today, but is highly vulnerable to short-term shocks. Bottom right, the decade builder extends its horizon, stabilizing the business and increasing total worth. You cannot cross the gap between these two positions simply by working harder on daily tasks. Moving across this quadrant requires an intentional choice to sacrifice immediate, low-hanging gains for structural assets. Let's compare the cash flow hustle directly against the decade business to see where the resources actually go. This comparison matrix breaks down the trade-offs, starting with where each model chooses to focus its primary investments and energy. The short-term operator funnels resources into whatever temporary trend is hot right now, using performance marketing to generate immediate revenue spikes. The moment that ad spend stops, the revenue stops. The business is left with no assets that grow in value over time. The decade operator reallocates budget toward building back-end systems, customer databases, and supplier relationships. This creates residual value. By locking capital into infrastructure, the business creates leverage that remains even if the marketing budget is cut. Trend chasing buys temporary revenue, while asset building buys permanent structural leverage. This clear difference in focus changes how these two mindsets evaluate every new opportunity that hits their desk. We see this in the decision filter row. The short-term mindset filters for immediate margin and speed to market. If it generates cash this month, the answer is yes. The decade mindset uses a different gatekeeper, the 3-year filter. They evaluate every choice by asking if it will still look like a smart, foundational decision 36 months from now. This requires the discipline to say no to highly profitable but fleeting distractions that don't contribute to the long-term goal. The ultimate test of a long-term operator is their willingness to reject bad revenue. These operational timelines also dictate the psychological state of the business owner. The final row shows the emotional baseline. When anchored to a 30-day horizon, a minor dip feels like a threat, causing panicked decisions. A 10-year horizon flattens variance. Setbacks become insignificant blips on a larger, upward trend. Maintaining this calm requires an iron stomach and a financial buffer to ignore competitors who appear to be winning today. This perspective provides the patience to stay the course while competitors are trapped by short-term pressure. Thinking in decades is a luxury paid for by short-term survival. Choosing the wrong strategy for your current stage is often fatal. This flowchart identifies which mode you must adopt based on your primary bottleneck today. If you are pre-product market fit or struggling to make payroll, your constraint is immediate cash flow. You must prioritize the short-term hustle. Overbuilding systems for an unproven business leads to bankruptcy. If you have reliable cash flow but feel trapped by the daily grind, your constraint is operational burnout. At this stage, continuing the short-term hustle has transitioned from a survival tactic into your greatest liability. You must immediately implement the 3-year filter to break out of the quarterly cycle and build enterprise value. Correctly identifying your current constraint dictates whether you need to hustle for Friday or build for the decade. Shifting to a decade-long mindset guarantees slower immediate growth in exchange for permanent resilience. Laying deep, permanent foundations takes significant effort, but it is the only way to build a structure that withstands heavy storms and shifting conditions. Patience only works if it is actively paired with structural investment. Waiting is not a strategy. Building is. Stop evaluating your success by what happens next week
and start building the operational architecture required for the next decade.